Captain Forest here, and in today's video we're going to find out why All Might vs Gojo is not close. Now, if you guys are new to my channel, please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for the content. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead, dive right in, talk a little bit about All Might, then move on, talk about Gojo, and then I'm going to give my thoughts near the end of the video. So, in order to establish where All Might would range in terms of attack potency and speed, we must address some things. A hero called Kathleen, aka Stars and Stripes, performs a devastating feat where 10 missiles were used in order to dispatch of Shigaraki and the high-end Nomus. This feat was calced around the 902 teratons, aka continent level. This all comes full circle as Stars and Stripes states that she cannot conjure up super strength on All Might's level. So, if you use her statement, we can upscale All Might to this feat. Now, it's kind of tricky to understand whether she was referring to Prime or Outer Prime All Might. However, we are all aware of the fight that took place where All Might did battle with a Nomu, where All Might states it would have taken 5 hits in his heyday in comparison to the 300 hits it took to defeat the Nomu, showcasing that Prime All Might is 60 times stronger than Out of Prime All Might. So if we include all of this, Prime All Might would range around the 540 petatons, aka multi-continental, which is very impressive. So that's going to round up All Might's AP. I'm going to move on, talk about speed. As for speed, All Might would easily scale above the weaker UA students, characters like Mina who can react to Ayama's laser beam, which was calced around the 70% the speed of light, and you can also take it higher as Invisible Girl reacts to Ayama's laser beam, which was calced around the 1.81 times the speed of light, aka FTL, and easily All Might would scale above all of this, or scale to it at least. Now, that's going to round up stats. I'm going to talk a little bit about All Might's power. Now, as the user of One for All, it grants him some resistances. It also grants All Might superhuman speed and power. It allows him to store and stockpile energy in order to output more power into his attacks for devastating results. He can create concussive blasts of air with his punches too. He has his own signature techniques named after states called California Smash, Texas Smash, Nebraska Smash, Carolina Smash, Missouri Smash, New Hampshire Smash, Detroit Smash, Oklahoma Smash, and the iconic United States of Smash. Lastly, All Might is powerful as he is skilled. He's able to defeat All For One, who has 100 years of experience on him, which is very impressive. That's going to pretty much round up All Might. Unfortunately for All Might, he doesn't display too many showings in terms of like hacks and abilities, but he does have some pretty unique things when it comes to AP and, speed and all that good jazz. But anyway, now that I've talked about that, I'm going to go ahead and bounce over and talk about Gojo, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not. Starting off with attack potency, let's talk about some feats for Gojo. In the early encounter against Jogo, Gojo demonstrates the gap between each other as Gojo is able to blitz and beat up Jogo. Then he's able to use his curse technique Red, generate a small red orb and blast it at Jogo, sending him flying. This very same Jogo created an Iron Mountain, which was calced around the mountain to large mountain level plus ranges. We all like a little bit of consistency. Gojo is above the likes of Dagon, who created his own tropical island, which was calced around the mountain level ranges too. So right off the bat, in terms of AP, Gojo is ranging from mountain to large mountain level. There's also finite feats, you can take it down. There's like a city level calc I believe, but easily ranging from those levels. Now moving on to speed, there's a feat where Gojo is able to dodge an explosion from a bunch of cursed spirits. Now there are some ranges for this, as there is the anime and manga interpretations. I'll include both ranges for the sake of this video. So the feat in the manga was calced around the Mach 121, aka massively hypersonic, and the anime it was calced around Mach 1979, aka massively hypersonic plus. There is another calc where Hakari was able to dodge lightning, which was calced around the Mach 547 as a low end, and the higher end was calced around Mach 945, aka massively hypersonic, very close to massively hypersonic close as well. So Gojo would also scale to this and pretty much just be above it outright due to his own feat being just way more impressive than this. Alright, that's going to conclude stats. I'm going to move over, talk about Gojo's bread and butter, talk about his curse technique, domain expansion, and any other miscellaneous things in his disposal. Now, in order to truly understand these concepts, I've got to break down a very important aspect in JJK called cursed energy. Cursed energy is a form of negative energy that flows within people and is supplied by negative emotions. These energies attract and also bring curses into existence. Notable places where curses thrive are places such as busy crowded areas and gatherings, schools and hospitals. The components of what manifests cursed energy can be emotions such as pain, humiliation, regret, depression, negative thoughts, bad memories, love, etc. Jujutsu sorcerers are taught how to control their emotions when using cursed energy. They do this so that they don't waste cursed energy. Todo explains to Yuji about cursed energy. Cursed energy flows from the stomach to the chest, shoulders, and then arms and fist. It depends on how you flow the cursed energy. In this case, Todo is critiquing Yuji's divergent fist, noting that he needs to instead flow the energy simultaneously with his raw attacks instead of just hitting afterwards, as the delayed technique is garbage against more powerful opponents and more so works effectively against average level Jujutsu sorcerers. This leads me to talk about another thing called cursed technique. In early chapters of JJK, Gojo explains the difference between cursed energy and cursed technique. Cursed energy is like electricity. It's difficult to use properly on its own, but by applying it with cursed technique, in this example of electronics like a hairdryer using electricity, you can project cursed energy with more control, precision, and skill. More skilled and experienced Jujutsu sorcerers can use cursed energy more efficiently, such as applying it to their own entire body to form a barrier to protect from attacks. Nanami, who is also a skilled sorcerer in his own right, is able to apply cursed energy to his soul in order to protect himself from Mahito's soul transfiguration, or to amplify their physical attacks by reinforcing their fists, limbs with cursed energy. People's use of cursed energy and cursed techniques are different and unique to oneself, but in Gojo's case, he has something special. Gojo possesses the 6 eyes, which is an innate gift rarely inherited within the Gojo clan. They are a non-standard phenomenon in Jujutsu, which grants the user extraordinary perception, allowing them to see the flow of cursed energy and read cursed techniques. It also allows for precise control over cursed energy, which is indispensable for utilizing his limitless. Due to the 6 eyes, Gojo almost never runs out of cursed energy when he performs his cursed techniques, which also leads me to talk about his other cursed techniques. I'll start off with one that is most feared by everyone, Infinity. Gojo's cursed technique, in simple terms, is an infinite barrier, where any attack that moves at a finite distance will never reach him. The barrier will create a space so that even if you try to physically touch him, you cannot. All attacks come to an abrupt halt. The author himself had to hire mathematicians in order to explain to the readers how infinity works due to its complexity. In order to even reach Gojo, you'd have to travel at higher infinities of speed or higher in order to reach Gojo. Otherwise, you will never touch him and you will be halted by his barrier every time. Gojo's barrier operates automatically instead of manually, and he can keep the barrier active at all times. He shows later on that it's constantly active when he's out and about, and also keeps it on him when his allies are around. He can also distinguish a threat based on the mass, speed, and shape when the barrier interacts with attacks or objects, giving Gojo awareness of the type of attack he's dealing with. Another extension of Gojo's curse technique, called Red, a character named Miguel explains Red as the property of Limitless, which is Gojo's ability to manipulate curse energy and destroy things down on an atomic level with it by manipulating space-time. Curse technique LARP's Blue is achieved when the limitless user greatly amplifies the amount of curse energy poured into this technique. This brings the concept of negative numbers and negative distance into reality, forcing real space to compensate and fill in the area by drawing everything towards the impossibility. This generates a strong force of attraction similar to a powerful magnet. By flowing higher amounts of curse energy into the technique, it generates larger fields of attraction in return. The magnetic force is powerful enough to tear apart entire buildings. A human body hit with the technique would be erased, but it can also be used to attract two targets to another, causing them to collide from wide distances. Hollow Purple. By combining both red and blue curse techniques, it creates a negative equation which removes whatever it touches, essentially erasing anything that comes into contact with it on an atomic level and space-time level. Now that we have established the context behind how these curse techniques work, gives us a better understanding on how Gojo fights, from warping his opponent's bodies, manipulating distance of his opponents, and the ability to teleport to places and levitate in midair. Now let's talk about Gojo's domain expansion, called Unlimited Void. Unlimited Void floods the opponent's brain with limitless information, making them feel everything and see everything. Because their brain is being flooded with endless information, the opponent is completely immobilized and helpless. There's another thing I want to bring up, folks. It's a thing in the verse called Reverse Curse Energy. Reverse Curse Energy is used in order to heal the user of injuries that they sustain in combat. Now, the use of reverse curse energy also depends on the user. Gojo's case, he can use his reverse curse energy to preserve his energy and keep his brain fresh, essentially giving him some type of form of self-sustenance and stamina recovery. Gojo has shown out of everyone to use his reverse cursed energy to rejuvenate his burnt out curse energy, allowing him to reactivate his domain expansion. Now, there's context to this, folks. When a Jujutsu sorcerer performs a domain expansion, and after the domain expansion has finished, essentially it is described as their curse energy being burnt out or overheated. For example, if you was to use a turret and you was to fire multiple bullets, the turret would eventually overheat. Now, the turret isn't necessarily broken, it just needs time to recover. It still has bullets, it still works just fine, it just needs to cool down. In Gojo's case, he can use his reverse curse energy to bypass this by cooling it down faster, hence allowing him to reactivate his domain expansion with no problems. When Unlimited Void is active, it affects everything except Gojo, who is the user of the domain expansion. Gojo can also use other techniques, such as the Falling Blossom emotion, which is a secret art technique passed down in the Big Three Sorcerer family. Unlike Simple Domain, which the user manifests their own domain to nullify a domain expansion's auto-hit attack, Falling Blossom emotion shrouds the user in curse energy that counteracts a moment a domain's guaranteed hit makes contact. The curse energy defends the user automatically, countering any attack with equal force to nullify it. And lastly, Gojo can use New Shadow style Simple Domain, which is an anti-domain technique that erects a small little barrier around the user to protect them from the effects of a domain expansion. Alright, that's going to conclude both these combatants. I'm going to go ahead, give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not in a CrossFit situation and why this fight isn't close. On paper, All Might, he looks really good in this matchup, easily taking AP, easily taking speed. So when we look at Gojo, however, I've heard arguments to get him higher. There's some arguments that I'm fine with, but there's certain things I'm not very convinced on, just due to lack of evidence and just not enough consistency. So I think the ranges that I've given for Gojo are pretty fair. Now, when it comes to stats, of course, yes, Gojo lacks in those departments, but when it comes to hacks, of course, I think hacks, that's where Gojo shines the brightest. There's no way for All Might to get past Limitless. There's just nothing for him to get past. All of All Might's attacks are just finite. Multi-continental strength is completely pointless since he can't touch Gojo, nor can he reach him due to the barrier and its conditions. Now, Gojo does have domain expansion, however, you can make some certain aspects and arguments of how curse energy works. You know, we all know that All Might doesn't have curse energy, so it'd be pretty much useless to kind of use Infinity in a sense. I don't think Infinity would work just due to the fact that it works on targets with curse energy. You know, we've seen it with Maki. She has no curse energy. That's why she was able to bypass that domain expansion and its abilities, because there's no direct target. It would treat individuals who have no cursed energy as inanimate objects. However, I don't think Gojo even needs Infinity to dispatch of All Might. He has other ways to deal with him. Now, before I move on to that, I know for a fact that if you use standard battle assumptions, or if you use verse equalization and give All Might curse energy, then yes, Infinity would activate. All Might is screwed. There's nothing you can do. He'd get trapped in it. Now, people make arguments, hey, what about the vestiges? Would the vestiges like step in and protect All Might from this infinite flood of information? Well, no, because if the vestiges try to step in and protect All Might, they'd all meet the same fate. They'd all get they'd get like infinite information rushing through their brains, and they'd all start drooling. So no, the mind resistance just wouldn't be enough. It's too finite, and the overwhelming information that is being bombarded into you is just way too significant. So I don't think the vestiges would be enough. The vestiges will just meet the same fate as All Might. Now, I've heard arguments about, what about All Might? Could he use curse energy? Well, not really. First and foremost, even if we use verse equalization, we include these things in nature, like curse energy and things of that nature. Number one, even characters in like the JJK verse, like the humans themselves have curse energy, but they are not aware that they have curse energy, nor do they know how to use curse energy. So it would just be a bold assumption to say that All Might would be able to use curse energy. He'd have no idea he has it. So I really don't see him being able to utilize it in any way, shape or form against Gojo. He'd just be vulnerable and more susceptible to Gojo's domain expansion simply. Now, moving on to Hollow Purple. Hollow Purple is very dangerous, one of the strongest win cons in Gojo's arsenal. At first, if Gojo uses hollow purple on the ground, yes, we do know curse energy cannot be seen through regular means, so All Might would not be able to see the cursed energy or cursed attacks from Gojo, especially hollow purple. He's just going to see the ground just get completely carved and warped, which would give All Might an estimate on where to dodge, so it would help him be able to avoid some of the attacks from hollow purple if he tries to judge the terrain and what's being destroyed. Now, if Gojo uses it in mid-air, or if he uses a giant AoE hollow purple like he did to Sukuna in the recent chapters, All Might is done for. There's nowhere for him to escape. It'd be very difficult for him to make a good judgment, try and dictate where to go or where to avoid, because he cannot see. He'd see the ground completely be like wiped out, but he won't know what's happening. Let's say he tries to jump in mid-air. He doesn't know if the blast is an AoE blast, if the blast is gonna cover the massive radius, because he can't see it, so he'd have a hard time judging where to avoid. So he just kept caught in the blast and erased. So more often than not, I gotta give this to Gojo. In all honesty, Gojo just completely flicks the verse. His curse energy and curse techniques and hacks are just far too sophisticated and just way too much for All Might and My Hero Academia verse. They have no ways to dispatch of Limitless, they have no answers to it, and they have no answers to hollow purple. And even if we stretch this, it would ultimately just be a war of attrition, and Gojo has the stamina to keep up, especially with his reverse curse technique, and this fight would pretty much just be, you know, just be inevitable, just be long. All Might would just meet his match, so I gotta give this to Gojo very easily. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for the content. It's been real. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.